Welcome everyone back to the Safe Room. It is your host, the President Sean Williams, and we're back with another episode. Now, this was supposed to drop last week, but we had some little technical difficulties, so it's coming out here now. So, with that being said, I'm really happy to have. Hold on, I gotta get the intro right, because I nailed it last time when we weren't able to get it done. So I want to see if I can get it done again. This individual, he goes by many names, but you probably know this individual by Mr. Activated, and he has his own podcast, the Activated Podcast, structure itself on the real life, real stories of black individuals, and just basically his vision is allowing listeners to open up and fulfill their worth in what makes them passionate through conversation and providing a platform for pleasure and laughter simultaneously and authentically. Basically, this dude is on top of his game. He knows what's up. He knows what he's doing, and like he's all over the place. I got Ibou, or you probably may know him as Mr. Activated. How are you, my guy?
Yes, sir. I appreciate that, man. Listen, man, you're an expert at this. You nailed it twice, um, and I love it, man. What could I say? There's nothing more for me to follow up. But thanks for having me on. We try to really do this last week. I was in Saint Tropez when we had that call, south of France. Google that. It's a very nice place, and the internet failed us. So we're back again, and I'm excited to actually continue the conversation and to thank you for allowing me to come on your platform for sure.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate your time and everything. Guys, if you don't know, we'll just give you a little backstory. So we tried to record this last week. My man Ibou was like chilling, living his best life, and the internet was just it was bugging. It was absolutely bugging. But
It was bad. It was bad.
honestly, I would like to say things kind of happen for a reason. So maybe it was just kind of like, hey, you need to do this conversation when both you guys are back in Toronto. So I guess God just made it so.
Sometimes God works in mysterious ways. You know what I mean? It's like that didn't went down the way we expected to be, and some things has transpired. New content for us to even talk about, like what we talk a little bit about before we went live. So it's like these things happen, and like anything in life, you got to figure a way to keep pushing and keep going.
Yes, absolutely, for sure, man. So like we're gonna be talking about your podcast. We're gonna be talking about just you and how you've been able to like travel so much around the world, had all these opportunities. But before we get into that, there's something that I want to get off my mind because it's probably been the biggest topic for the last couple of days. And if you do not know what's happening, I please advise you before you even listen to the rest of the conversation, go check out what's happening, check all the information, all your sources. So there was a high school shooting in Texas, and I believe it's 19 children. I could be wrong. It's either 18 or 19 children and
Hmm.
a couple of teachers. They were shot and killed. Some idiot 18-year-old thought it was a good idea to bring a rifle into a school and just start shooting up innocent people. And this has definitely struck a lot of attention in the last couple of days. A lot of people have been
Hmm.
giving their perspectives. A lot of people have been giving their takes, and everyone is asking for accountability. But as I sat back and I saw all this, and I'm just gonna give my quick take before I pass it to you, Ibu.
Yep.
Just seeing everything, I just thought to myself like, when is this gonna stop? But more importantly, when are we going to do something? Because I know we always talk about there's not enough awareness in the world, and you can argue that is true, despite the fact that you can say you can find information or find a conversation anywhere you look online. There's still like that gap in between where people are not informing themselves on the information, and they need to get a better grasp and understand it. But
Yeah.
sometimes too much awareness is just it might just not do anything. It might not do justice, and this is where you look for action. And I'm just I'm looking at all the senators, all 50 senators in the United States. How has there not been gun control laws enforced up to this point? It kind of
Mm.
boggles me to where I'm just like, this needs to happen. This needs to happen, and like I was in such sadness but such anger as well because I think I'm not the only one that expresses this. You can't be looking at the United States and saying, "Oh, it's the greatest country in the world, the American dream. You can chase for what you believe," and yet you're seeing all these monstrosities happen in front of our screens. And the best these senators could do is give a rundown, generic, heartless apology about I send my condolences and my just sorrows to the family. Like that's just nothing but PG bullshit to me. It's bullshit. And I just think that
Mm.
there needs to be action. Gun control needs to be enforced. And it's come to the point where people are saying like you could get a gun at your local store, your local convenience store. You can get a gun by a supplier, by anyone. Then you can get to rather than some of the most important amenities that you probably need. I probably could get a gun somewhere before I can get my driver's license. Like I'm not driving right now, but
Mm.
I feel like if I were to like look up for a place like let me get me like an assault rifle and just go shoot up a school, I could get access to that than to probably a driver's license, or better yet, I could probably get a gun faster to like getting me skill sets to grab employment or what I could use to start my business, or maybe you have some other goal you have achieved. That becomes harder, but getting something that literally hurts people is where like it's at your fingertips. So seeing all this surround me, like all the news, all the buzz, it's come to the point where like how many times am I just gonna sit here and then like inform people? Like I'll make a post on my
Mm.
social media. Hey, look at this story. I shouldn't be doing that. And most importantly, that shouldn't always be the story every single time. Like we should actually be going out there. Like why isn't there no rallies? Why is there no one going out and protesting? Why isn't there actual enforcement of gun control? Like I don't understand. And it's become to the point where people are starting to get frustrated. And if nothing is getting done very soon, I'm telling you, there's going to be a riot. Someday, there's
Yeah.
going to be that next shooting, that mass shooting, where people are going to snap and no one's going to be looking around like, oh, you know what? We should just keep trying to spread the word. No, no one's going to be spreading word. People are going to probably spread it a lot of anger and rage, and they're going to do it in the streets. They're going to do it at the higher ups where they're the ones that's supposed to be looking down and making sure they're protecting the people. But you're not doing that when you have some 18-year-old that just turned 18, I believe, just walking to school and just shooting up the place like he doesn't give a shit. So
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I mean, it's a lot to be said, right? Like, I grew up in the U.S., so I understand the mentality out there. I mean, it is your Second Amendment is to bear arms. Like that's part of the American culture. They believe in their right to bear arms, but you got to also understand when that amendment was probably put in place, it was years ago where it was a different state of mind. It was a different environment at the time, and I believe that part of that even being put in the Constitution at the time is that the citizens wanted to be armed in case the government wanted to take them over. Right? That was like part of them attaining some of the power because at the time there was definitely been I don't know that like I can't quote it for sure, but it was like we want to protect ourselves and we want to be armed in case we need to go against our government if we don't agree. But obviously, since then, the landscape has completely changed, right? Like we live in a world now that in some countries, like the UK, for example, I think the police don't even have weapons on them. Like it's not a thing out there. So therefore, you don't see mass shooting happening in the UK. Though they have their own set of problems, but that's at least an issue that has been eradicated. Because if you as a parent, and I can't even put that together, you letting your kids go to school and then you get a phone call that somebody's shooting in your kid's school. Like I can't imagine the agony that a parent has to be going through. And I think that America has made one thing clear. America only cares about money.
Mm-hmm.
Gun are tied to a lot of money. Gun is putting a lot of money in a lot of people's pockets. And for example, in the state of Arkansas, when you go there, I think I went to a pawn shop with an uncle a couple of years ago, and Yeah, it's everywhere. It's like it's in Walmart, it's in this some state. You don't even have to pass any strict. It's like as long as you got a clean record, you good. They don't even check your mental state of mind. Like, is this guy mentally in the space to be able to hold a gun? Because you know, based on this young man that went in there and shot up. I mean, that's not even like this monster. Essentially, the went in there and just took these kids' lives away. It's like he's been online just spewing hate, and you knew this is somebody that was going through things. He should. There's no way should he be allowed to have purchased a gun or even have one readily accessible. I mean, these guns are shooting 30 clips a minute. Like listen. It's a lot of you gonna take out a lot of people before anything happens to you.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a couple years ago. This is like episode 20, 21. Don't quote me on there, but check out my podcast. It's on there. I was talking to a teacher that actually teaches at the time in the state of Texas, in Austin, to be specific. And their school was talking about toying with the idea of arming them and putting guns in their pocket so they could learn to defend themselves. So now imagine as a teacher, you got to go to school with a weapon in case these things happen. Like, it's just, I mean, America right now is complete chaos. Like, and to be honest with you, I think America is one way, but the whole world is just going through, just like, we all got to take, a step back and really assess and to see what is it to us. Like, the ability to bear arm, does it surpass what is happening? Because, since the first one, the Columbine shooting that took place, like, it's been people mimicking that. Like, it's people like, right now, I don't know what the stats is, but when you look how many school shootings happen, like, we hearing about this thing, but there's also a school shooting that like 2 people died. But that don't make the news. Like, it's not only this one. I'm sure that it's been, like few of them that's taken place up until this moment. So, I mean, America just has shown time and time again, America only cares about the mighty dollars. And if there's a way to continue to make money, they look at this as a byproduct of their ability to make money. America has replaced, I mean, I know they say God, but they replaced God with money. Like, nothing moves without the mighty dollar. And I think in a society, when that's the focus, then this is a byproduct of us only caring about money. Like, you're going to lose lives, and they rather this happen than banning automatic weapons. There's no way that people should be allowed, a regular citizen allowed to buy a gun that could shoot 30 rounds a minute, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, who you trying to kill? Like, you're not going to war. You're not, like, what's up? But it's just unfortunate, I mean, during the pandemic, America also showed you that they don't care about their citizen. They cut them a check for $1,500 and kept it pushing. In some states, they didn't lock down. Like, it's just so many things that goes on in that country that, like, as long as things is making money, they're gonna find a way to keep pushing it through. Because guess what? A lot of these people that pass the laws have invested interest in their state having the ability to bear arms. Now, I know sometimes I hear about, but the criminals have it. How I'm going to protect myself? I mean, you might have a point, but it's like, but what's your priority as people? What are you going to prioritize? Because also, I just believe that, like, I mean, I could get shot, right? Like, somebody could shoot me.
Yeah.
But it'll be very tough for you to hear that, like, somebody came and shot me with a 30 round, like a criminal runner up on me. Not to say it's impossible, but the chances are very slim. But the way it's looking now, all it takes for me to send my kids to school and they could lose their lives. It's like, my kids are not criminal. I'm not part of no criminal activity. Kids are supposed to be safe at school, but, like, you got these people in society that are feeling like they're on the outside looking in, just going arming themselves and just taking a shot at 14 innocent kids. Like,
yeah,
I think last time I hear it was like up to 19 or something like that. But, like, I mean, America got some thinking to do, and I think that like we should just also look at. I know up here, it's even a process in Canada to get a gun. Not that it's not possible, but it's so much harder, but it is also possible. But you have to make a choice. Are we gonna choose money, or are we gonna choose people's lives? And I think that's the real question that they need to be talking to each other about, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, I feel you touched upon a lot of like serious and strong points, especially how like with America, it's about capitalism. I don't think that's anyone could refute that. It's always about the dollar, and because they have such a high power dynamic, is that they can basically flip any situation. It's always like full circle. There's always a mass murder, mass shooting, then obviously there's the riot from the public asking for better accountability, and then eventually it gets to the president, the senators, the mayors. What do they think? Maybe some community organization in the states, they start to speak up, and then it becomes a talking point for about a week. Sometimes you may see something happening, you'll see it on CNN, Fox News for a week, and then eventually things get quiet a bit, and then just kind of moves on, and then maybe a month later you hear something about, oh, the like the suspect is only gonna get like minor charges, and then again another outbreak, but we already know at that time it's over. So it's like, okay.
I mean, thank God they shot and killed this one. Like, he don't deserve to live after done such atrocity. But also, like, one thing you gotta understand is like the NRA, which is I think the National Gun Control. Can't remember exactly, but I mean they control so much, and they have so much money, they could lobby against laws being passed against laws. So it's like, it goes back to, once again, what we're talking about. It's about money, right? It's like pharmaceutical companies they have so much money that they could afford to spend $1 billion to ensure that they could continue to sell you the drug, to continue to get you. They're not trying to get you off the drug. They're trying to get you addicted, so your insurance could pay, so they could get the $10-20 million bonus at the end of the year. So America is built to, unfortunately, continuously make money, and anybody who stands in the way of that, like, you good as dead. So even if it gets lobbied to, like, unfortunately, the president can't pass a law because they created a system that, it needs to be voted and so on. And now when you're lobbying, when you got lobbyists, and I can't remember exactly the term, is like there's people that literally show up to go against these laws. And until you got, and if you have an organization like the NRA, like you have an unlimited checkbook, like you write checks all day, right? So you can't beat that. You can't beat the system, and it goes back to like, they make it about their freedom and protecting their freedom, but like, yo, bro, we're not in 1945. I mean, chances are you like, a tree might fall on you for you to die before somebody shoots you with a gun. Not to say it's impossible, but when you're able to if I'm able to tap into your fear, I'm gonna get you to do what I want you to do, whether or not that's the world that you live in. You know what I'm saying? They gonna push, it's like the COVID, the shit hit, they like, oh shit, everybody dying, like, stay home. And then now they're like, oh no, take off your mask, you good. It's like, was y'all playing a joke? Like, what was going on? But that just because they was able to tap into that fear, right? Like, and then people just ran wild with whatever theory that they have. But honestly, it's 19 children. Like, you gotta think about it. Like, I'm 33, just turned 33 last week. If my life would have stopped at 8-9 years old,
I mean,
imagine if Tupac life, like, Obama would have got, you know what I mean? Like, it's so many. It's just an unfortunate thing that happens when a child life get taken away. Not even because of natural causes, because somebody who's not well in his head decided to go and has the ability to purchase a rifle, or somebody else, or would have access to a gun. Because at this point, honestly, this shit it fucked me up so much. I try not to even look at details and facts. I try to just allow that to just live, because it's like it's so many of them, right? Like the guy that went to the grocery store in Buffalo and just shot all black people, and he targeted.
I think that was like
black people.
That was about like a week and a half before as well.
Yeah.
So like,
how many did he take down? Like 10, 11?
Yeah, like so 2 recent events just like that. So it's like you see the trauma.
Lord have mercy.
Of like what happened, and then like you look back at Buffalo, it's just kind of like it's crazy. Like, it's literally come to the point where like if you have family members, like they're calling you just to make sure, like even if you're just stopping by at the store at your mall, they're calling you saying like be careful, like make sure like you're looking both ways and you're not, trying to
Yeah.
stick around with the wrong crowd and everything, because again, it's just it's really scary to the point where you have to really start, hoping that, hey, I can't just like go out and enjoy myself or whatever I'm doing. I have to be so precautious and like I don't get killed or like nothing bad happens to me. So
Yeah.
overall, man, like I will say again, and I feel like for us Canadians, it's a hard position because like while this has happened in the States, we want to do something, but it's like, well, we're not actually living in the States. So it's not like we can pick up a plane ticket and go fly to US and start marching with the people down there. Because I think there were some gun control rallies that were happening today. So it's
Yeah.
like, where do we fall? How can we like, make an impact? I mean, yes, we could. I know the common answer is like post about it, but I'm not saying you can't. If that is your prerogative, fine. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm tired of doing that. I'm tired of
I
it.
mean, I personally I don't buy into the post because I'm somebody who's in the field, and um I'd rather figure out a way to help. I don't need the accolade for or even like the attention of posting. Yeah, I get some people, and if it is not one way to raise awareness, and I think that like whatever works for other people. But for me, I'm not a poster. Like I'm a figure out a way, in a real way, to really impact or solve certain issue. And when we talk about Canada, I mean Canada got his own shit to deal with when you are digging 6,000, you know, what's it called, native kids
Yeah.
out of these Christian schools that y'all put them in. So that's, you got to think about like 6,000 kids, right? If they all had 2 kids, how many is that? And if those kids had kids, like you just erase about good 100,000 people. Like obviously I'm just throwing a number out there, but that was intentional. That was just systematically done to erase a group of people. Like you got to understand, like these people have been wiped away like systematically, like you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So personally, like Canada got his own shit to deal with. Like we got to clean up what's going on in our backyard, and you could empathize what was going on in the state, but it's like, yo fam, I'm not flying nowhere until we figure out what's going on with native land and what's going on with the oppressing of black people in this country in a real way, because at least in the U.S. is out there. You know what time it is. I was in the south of France, and in one of the Airbnb I was driving to, I drove past the owner, and I called, and I was like, oh, like that was you there? Like I'm driving to the place because we supposed to meet. He's like, oh yeah, like were you the black guy in the car? The colored person is what she called me in French, and that was real. Like you know what I'm saying. And but let's keep it real. Like in France, it's a thing. Like white people out there, they're not bullshit.
Yeah.
Like they make it known, like nigga, you are black, and what the fuck is you like? I was in the south of France, and just to now we're breaking up, but just to give you context, like this is where rich people go and have a good time. I'm not rich by no way, but I could afford to be in certain spaces and so on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in everywhere that I went, I was reminded that you are black, right? And I'm also like, I'm the black person that you might look at and think he gonna run up on you because I dress how I dress or whatever it is.
Right.
But I go to a grocery store, I have a security guard following me. Like he's not hiding. He's like beside me the whole time. I'm like trying to buy this $3 rosé wine. Like I could probably pay your salary for the week, but it doesn't matter because I'm black. I get reminded and I get treated as such.
I mean,
like in a real way, right?
Yeah.
So imagine going on vacation and have to deal with that for 10 days. And it's like, I go to the grocery store, I get to because I was vlogging, so I had my backpack. I get to the cash register. She like,
right.
Sir, open up your bag. So I look around like,
it's like you talking to me?
But then I realize, oh shit, we're in France.
Yeah.
This is what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is what they do. They don't hide it. They don't, you know what I mean? So it goes back to what we're saying. It's like, yo, we got some shit that we need to take care of in this world. And I'm all about actions. You know what I'm saying? Like posting is cool, but if you're not out in the field really trying to intentionally make a difference, then All we're doing, all this is lip service. We're
And
just having a great time and talking.
to be fair, like I will say, there have been a couple times I have posts, and like I'll admit, I did post something today. I think it was like a recent update. I think it was something about one of the teachers who she was a woman. She passed away. Her husband actually died a couple days after due to a heart attack, and it wasn't because of
Of
like
course.
any conditions, medical conditions. It was basically because of the fact of the trauma of what happened. So like that.
Hey, bro, let me ask you this: have you ever been stressed? Like, have you? Do you remember yourself, or maybe even let me like rephrase it? Like, yo, stress is real. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know about other people, but like, like I used to be like nigga, what you stress about? Life is great, but like, stress is turning to like anxiety and like, at times when I'm really stressed, I can't sleep. Like my mind just won't shut off.
Hmm.
Now imagine your wife being shot and killed at a school. Like, and that anxiety is through the roof.
Yeah.
Like, imagine coming to sleep in your bed and then your wife is not there. And also, this is not natural causes. This is not an accident that you could,
Right.
like, somebody decided to go and take their lives. How could, like, I'm like, how does, what's everybody else doing?
You can't fault them.
How? What about the parents who child are dead? Like what did they do? What did they tell if they got siblings? Do they
Yeah.
go back to school? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just honestly, it's rest in peace to all the victims and things. I can't even wrap my mind around it, to be honest.
Yeah. It's a lot to take in. Yeah. Condolences to the families. Um, Again, honestly, the most I've done to address these topics, it's mostly through these conversations. But honestly,
Mm.
it's made me more like from these conversations, from seeing more of this, it's made me want to do more. Like, like maybe a petition, like send it to the states, letting them know that there are voices here in Canada
Mm.
that want to see accountability, that want to make sure that this shit stops. Because it needs to stop. It has to stop. This can't be something that just gets swept under the rug like every other dirty narrative that's happened in the United States of America. Because again, you're only here to chase a quick buck.
Yeah, no, they got a long way to go, and honestly, it's in times like this that you realize that you're just a being living through life, and all you could do is number one, trying to get the best out of the years that God grants you on this earth, and number two, create the biggest impact that you can while you still got these years and health to push through. And I mean, that's just how I kind of choose to live. It's like if I could make a difference, I go for it and continue to carry on because this thing will continue to happen until changes are done, but in a real way. But those that can't make the changes don't want their pockets to be hurt. So we
Yeah.
become the byproduct of somebody else making money. Our CEO, the company I work for, he made $3 million in bonuses. I
Mm.
got a $6,000 check. I mean, and that's how life is, right? Like, what are we gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like, anyways, let's.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Nah, for real.
Let's switch
I'm
gears.
ready to switch gears too because I don't want this to
Yeah.
become a depressing episode. So yourself, Ibou, man. You have been doing a lot recently, and I know you have a lot of stuff coming up. But I want to talk about your podcast, the Activated Podcast, because
Yeah.
we were talking about this a little bit last week, and you had a really
Hmm.
interesting story because like this was something you started back a while ago, I believe in 2017, but
Yeah.
it hasn't been something that I wouldn't say you haven't like worked on consistently, but it's just like that kind of was like a stepping stone because now you branched into bigger opportunities. So like, just
Yeah.
go back more
Yeah.
into detail because again, the whole technical difficulties we didn't get to that. So like, the
Yeah,
people listening don't know
we
what's
didn't
up.
get to. So I started a podcast called Activated Podcast in 2017, like I mentioned to you, and then the goal at the time was in the landscape of even podcasts here in Toronto, in Canada, and let me even be specific, like in for Black people, I didn't see a space for us to allow us to have conversation to allow us to grow from conversation, teach one another, and even creating space that, like, if we needed, like you say about the shooting or whatever else, if we needed to pull resources together, like where do we go and how do we make that happen? Because at the time, the podcast I was listening to in the U.S., they had the ability to do that. And that truly inspired me. I was like, damn, they could really announce on the podcast that they're going to do a turkey Thanksgiving drive and then 500 people show up. Like, that's power. That's us controlling the messaging without having to go through the traditional ways of how media is set up. You know what I mean? So for me, I was at the time in my life where, a lot of the things that I was working on was making sense. I was coming out of school. I was finally, after graduating, after a few years, was getting a job in the field that I study, which is architecture. I was also in the brinks of like buying my first property at the time. So a lot of the things was kind of like going for me, and I was just like, for all the struggles and mistakes that I made, what if I had the ability to be like, hey, don't go over there. Like, here's how you move. And so that was the inspiration behind it. And then I realized at the time that I was doing it where, Instagram, I wasn't my choice of, I wasn't really on Instagram, to be honest with you. I was like, damn, like, imagine if people really knew what it was. Because from the outside looking in, we look at your amount of followers and think you really doing something in life when you really not, right? So I was like, yo, I'm going to launch a podcast. And to be honest with you, that was the craziest thing I could have thought of, because at the time I was 100 followers deep, and you know what I'm saying? And people didn't even know I had the ability to speak. So here I go, take on the challenge of starting a podcast and just really having to figure things out, because now we're in a space where you can even mimic other people's stuff, right? But you got to think about the time. The only ones that I can even like mimic was like 100,000 a week, podcast listens. At the level that I was at, like, I had to figure out how to record. Like, that was the biggest challenge. Is like, these guys was going to a studio every week, right? And I was just like, well, I can't afford a studio. I got to figure out how do I record, right? Like, I remember my ex let me borrow her laptop for the first 10 episodes, because at the time I didn't even own a computer with the ability to record a podcast. I mean, that's kind of how it started. Like, the first couple of mics I got was donated by friends of mine, people that just believed in me in a way that I didn't even believe in myself at the time. So I think the first year I told myself I'm going to put out an episode every week. And I was like, well, the big podcasts do it. Why can't I? And then you get in the ring, you're like, yo. So you got to think about at the time, and I did that for 1 year. I put out an episode every week, except for maybe a couple of them. I think I put up like 45 episodes the first year.
Yeah.
And it was like, by the time I'm cooking for Friday, I'm going through the weekend. On Tuesday, I got 3 days to record. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was and once again, like, I got a full-time job and I have to do everything myself. It was just like, I did that for a year. And to be honest with you, I'm glad I even stuck to that, because a lot of the skill set and things like that, it developed through that. It's a difference when you got to go every day to the gym. Like, you're just going to be that much sharper and better. And I can even remember at the time, like, getting a guest was like, yo, is nobody trying to come on the podcast, B?
Yeah, like, where y'all at?
It's like, who's this 100 like, ooh, you got 100 people follow, like, so people equated me to my follower count and stuff like that. And this is when I developed the ability to have podcasts on my own. So meaning, like, I'm gonna put up 3 topics and I'm gonna run through that and then give my opinion or whatever it was, and I'm gonna keep it at 45 minutes by myself. So what I used to do is to even practice to that, my drive home is about 35 minutes. So when I pull out of work, right, I'm like, okay, let's talk about wedding. Well, the idea of getting married a lot. So I would just like, that's how I started. And I would just talk about weddings for 35 minutes. It didn't need to really make sense. It just needed to have a
structure,
a structure to it. So that's how I learned to really have to put up the episode by myself. So I would schedule an interview. The person would not show up. And then Thursday night at 8 p.m., I will turn on the mic and then record and have an episode for Friday. So this is the growing pain that I had to go through at the time. So
I'm going to need to stop you right now, because, like, you can see the smile on my face, because, okay, so I just want to revert. You know how at the beginning you said how God works in mysterious ways, right?
Facts.
I feel like there are so much things that you are saying that I am living right now.
Mm.
From the
Mm.
if I don't get a guess, I am just picking a topic and I'm recording it. Literally like
Got to.
or like I in terms of the structure for my topics, I have like literally if you saw what on my screen, I literally have a notes section of all my episodes since last year, the outlines for each one jotted down, still there. And like even sometimes with the equipment, sometimes it was a struggle. Or like, listen, I'm seeing some podcasters that I listen to right now. They're in the studio. They got these nice equipment with the mics, the DSLRs. Bro,
Yeah.
I'm rocking
Yeah.
with an external webcam from my phone and this like maybe $100 mic, and that's it. That's all I have. I feel like what you're saying, the more you're saying it, my smile gets bigger because I'm like, am I watching my future self right now? Like,
I mean, maybe. It depends how many shots you gonna put up. No, I mean, and to be honest with you, that's just the real thing. So a lot of even the podcasts that I started with, they're not existent. They faded to black. So to your point, like, and I'm willing to bet money on this because I've seen it many times. If you're a new podcaster and you're renting a studio per episode, you just got to do quick math. That studio gonna run you on the cheap end 300, and I'm saying like cheap, right? Do that times 10 episodes. You had $3,000. Do that by 52 episodes. That's $10,000
yeah.
on something that you're not yet generating any money from. So you're not gonna last. So how do I not tell you 4 or 5 years later I'm still around? Because I've had to learn everything about a podcasting. Though all people saw was me talking to a mic, it was a machine that I was running. Now, fortunately, that has allowed me to develop a lot of other skills that I now make money from in a real way. So that allows the baby, which is my podcast, to continue to go. Right. So now when we even talk about consistency, like I said, I put up 45 episodes my first year. I don't need to prove to anybody how consistent I could be. I've done that. You know what I'm saying? So now my whole point is like, for every episode you come listening to, you're going to feel like, yo, we're listening to this guy could be on radio. I've actually been on radio. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, I want you to have, I want to separate myself from everybody else. Right. And I know some people are like, oh, they care about views, and I care about skill set. I care about if I get on this mic, how I'm gonna make you feel when you take off these headphones. And that's a growing pain, because there was time when I'm like, yo, how I'm gonna make this?
Facts.
I got work at 7:00. My episode ain't like, how I'm gonna do this? Like, how?
Schedule's packed.
And it goes back to what I'm saying. Like, I don't edit my podcast because I realize I could save 3 hours. But my talking needs to be on point, because if I could be better at conveying an idea, I don't need to edit. If I don't, then I got to go spend 4 hours, and you add that up times 10 episodes, that's 40 hours that I already don't have. So everything around the podcast just had to flow in a way that like I needed to create systems to allow me to continue to go. So now it's people with 4 or 5 people on the podcast that can deliver the quality or the ability that I'm able to deliver being a one-man show. And I think that, for everything else, life will teach you that, like, if you dedicate your time to something, you just gotta, you will be better at it. And I'm also like, I'm like, I want to conquer everywhere I go. I want to be the best. I want to be, I'm going to take your head off. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my mentality. Like, and it's not malicious. It's like, yo, if me and you get on the mic, I want people to realize, oh, that boy over there is sharper. Like, that boy don't even remember my name. I could care less. But remember on what I said and how it impacted you. Like, I got supporters that live in the U.S. that we've not became friends. Like, I've made such a connection on the internet that, like, people want to come to Toronto and see the city, because all they've heard is through the way I'm living. You know what I'm saying? And I think the goal of the podcast was to create a platform that allowed your average person that's making an impact in the community to come in and share their story in a way to inspire others that are listening to it. And I think that from 2017 to now, like I've definitely been able to create that in a real way and to have a community that really supports me in many ways. It's allowing me to make money from it.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It's allowing me to now even consider doing this full time when it comes to everything else that I'm doing outside of my regular work. It's allowing me to, to dream beyond, something that I didn't think I had the ability to do, and to be here sitting here today and tell you, um damn, this could be a real thing. And everything spiral, it came from just believing in my ability to do a podcast. You know what I mean? And that's just in a short format, that's kind of like what the story is for that.
Yeah. Hey, man. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And again, like I love having that consistency. Like I'm a person that like I try to actually drop a episode every week, and it's not because I'm trying to impress anyone. Like, hey, look,
Mm.
I genuinely just love what I do. I love having conversations, even if it's something where it's like, you know what? I don't
Mm.
think anyone would ever talk about this, but I don't care. This is something I want to cover. Like last week
Yeah.
when I wasn't able to go over the conversation with you, I started listening back to the Kendrick Lamar album, and I'm like, yo, let me talk about this because like I had something on my chest, and it wasn't in the sense of like, oh shoot, I gotta get some content. I was like, oh shoot, like I
Yeah.
need to pump something out, or like
Yeah.
my people are gonna forget me. Like I'm just gonna be like a just a like a footnote. I was like, no, because I actually want to talk about it, and I love how you've been able to stick to that mantra of like I'm gonna take your head off. Like I don't care, no prisoners.
Facts.
Like in a respectful way. It's like, listen, obviously we're not doing nothing crazy, but it's just like I'm trying to be the best, and I feel like for me, I've been focusing like in terms of like my audience of like, I want to connect with the people I know, get them to see the work that I do, get them to support me. And now I feel like I'm coming to a stage where like I want to branch out. I want everyone, I want the whole city of Toronto to know my name, and it's just kind of
Yeah.
like, what's that next step? Like, what do I need to do? And, it's good to see that with your podcast, you were able to find those missing like links and connect the dots together. So when you got to that point, it's like again, you're attracting people from the states, from across the world, where it's like, yo, who's that
Yeah.
voice on the radio? Like, yo, that's Ibou, that's Mr. Activate. Like, I want to meet
Yeah.
this guy. Like, he's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
he knows how to tell a story, and he knows how to get something. Like, that's the type of like you have
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
type of
Yeah.
power. And honestly, to me, that is worth more than anyone that says, hey, yo, like I'm spending big money in dough. Like, look at all the luxuries I have. Listen, you could have
Yeah.
all the luxuries, but then no one knows who the heck you are. I could be wearing the
Yeah.
dirtiest things in my closet, but if I got a whole audience who knows my voice, then listen, that's more powerful than any piece of jewelry, any bank account you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I chose the harder path. It's now you got financial people talking about finances, and they'll tell you they've been in the space 2 years. Now, I'm not here to discount anybody about because it's not about the time that you spend, it's your ability. But it's like, yeah, and I now I'm trying to just expose people to a little bit more because I never cared about money in the first place. Money wasn't a driving factor. Now I bet you if we sit there and tally up, like I do okay in life. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm surprised in spaces and things that I'm able to do. I'm even surprised is that people are willing to pay me X amount of money to just do what I love to do. So for me, that was always the goal. It was never about flexing. And I think that if that's the route that I chose, it'd have been it'd have been a lot quicker. Like I flew first class, never talked about it once. Never even posted about it. You know what I'm saying? You got to do the math on that. You know what I'm saying? Like today, I get a call. Oh, we want you to go to France for a weekend and shoot some content and things like that. And this is what we're talking about. Like, and I'm telling you this at my level that I'm able to do that. So you could look at it and go, holy smoke! Like it's attainable. But it's not in a way that I'm trying to make it seem like, yo, I'm better than you. That's why I'm getting the opportunity. No, I believed in myself. That's why I get opportunities to do these things. And I'm choosing to take the path of the most resistance and not the least, because this is what forges personality and skill set that even if you don't got the crowd to back it up, your peers will know what time it is. Like I can't be in a room and have a conversation and not walk away with people being like, oh, okay. And so that means I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So you got to think about, like, for the people that you know that are really out there and really great at what they do, they'll tell you, yo, I've been on radio 15 years. I've been doing this 20 years before I got the first look that allowed me to blow. So if somebody tells you that, what is me that's been doing it for 5 years? Yo, we still got work to do. Like, I'm still putting up podcasts. Like, I'm still in the love state. I still love what I do. And now, if you go look at the page, like, we've leveled up in production. Everything is A1 now. Like, the sound is A1, the videos is A1. You know what I mean? So it's and then now you're able to see what skill set put together with some great visuals or whatever, what the impact is that going to do in the long run. But once again, 2017 is when we started. So what you're seeing now, we've been at it for some years. So of course it's supposed to feel like it's a little bit sharper, but you know, just dedicate yourself to that. Like, I could be on here boasting about so many things, man. And I'm just grateful, to be honest with you. Anything that I get to do, I was like, damn, I'm really, like I said last week, I was in the south of France, like, doing amazing things. You know what I'm saying? Like, in my inner circle, people have learned through me. Like, they had to, like, what is, you know what I mean? So you got to understand that, like, yeah, we came a long way. And, you know, I do it for the love of it, to be honest with you. And my passion, and I hope to even hear me talk about this, you could kind of hear my passion through this. That's why I do it, nothing else.
Yeah, man. No, I hear the passion, and, you know, definitely, like, you focus more on longevity rather than, like, I'm trying to get, like, a quick rating or a cheap pop. You know, that's just not me. And again, like, sometimes going through those long and tedious years, you pick up so much skills, and that's where you're able to implement it, and you see improvement. You start to see progression in the work that you do, and, like, that's a beautiful sight to see. You know, sometimes when, like, it's not always the biggest things, and don't get me wrong, when you hit that big achievement, it always means so much, but to get to that big achievement, you always have to appreciate some of the smaller things that got you to that point as well.
Facts.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, it's so great to hear your story of how your podcast came together. I do have another question, and it's referring to your alias, Mr. Activated. Now, I need to know,
yes, sir,
where did that come from? Because I mean,
Mr. Activated. Oh man, like, so first of all, the podcast name, there was a thing that I used to do back in the days on my Snap, and this is when I realized the influence was real. This is when I started to believe, like, oh, people actually listen and follow what you do, which is, at the time I was just like it didn't make sense. So I used to do this thing called Turn Up Shawty Activated, which essentially was from Thursday to Sunday. I let you in a little bit more on my Snap of how I was moving. Whether it's, you know, at the time, my brother-in-law was one of the biggest promoter in Toronto in the African scene, so we had access to everything. Wizkid, Davido, and everybody came. I was in there. Like, we had things going on from Thursday to Sunday. If you follow me on Snap, you'll be amazed. And it was just little old me just kind of like letting people in a bit. So when I was looking for a name for my podcast, I wanted to call it the Turn Up Shawty something, but I quickly was like, I'm going to grow out of that name because I'm not going to be in the club till forever, right? So I was like, but Activated kind of stuck, and I was like, well, you could activate it. You could put that in anything. It could be Activated Podcast, Activated, you know, your brain is activated, your body, your mind, your soul. So I ran with that, like, Activated Podcast. Now, when I first launched the podcast, people didn't know my name. No, people, like, they've seen me, but they didn't know who I was. Like, this is the quiet guy. What the fuck is he doing with a podcast?
That sounds so perfect, because it's kind of like, now it's kind of like a trick to be like, okay, I'm gonna listen to every single episode till eventually he slips up and he drops the name. Then it's like, all right, now we know who this thing is.
Yeah, and to be honest, no, on the podcast I said this, but they didn't know my name, right? So then Activated Podcast is the name that they knew, so they just started calling me Mr. Activated. And now I remember the first time ever, and if you're in Toronto, you're familiar with this Afrofest. I remember the first time I get the call to host. At this point, my Instagram is even like something like it's DC Wizboy 89. DC, where I grew up, The Wizards is my favorite team. 89 is the year I was born. That was my Instagram because I
Yeah.
didn't even. My Instagram was just whatever. I host Afrofest the first year, and I was like, because people are like, oh yeah, you can follow me on, this and that. It was something very simple. The crowd got it, and I was like, yo, you can follow me. It's DC Wiz. That sounded so whack. I was like, holy shit. So I even stopped saying people were to follow me.
Hmm.
But that weekend, everybody called me Mr. Activator. I knew I was like, oh, that's gonna be my Instagram name moving forward. And like I said, it's a name that just I didn't go search for it. It came to me. It was natural. And then from that weekend on, and this was 2018 July, I changed my name on Instagram to Mr. underscore Activator, and Ibou is my name that everybody called me anyways. So, and then I just ran with that. You know what I'm saying? Like it just like it stuck. It made sense, and like I said at the time, like it wasn't a thing, right? Like I know now everybody got a Mister in front of their name, but for sure when I started with the Mister Activated thing, it wasn't a thing. Like everybody was like, the voice of the party, the voice of Africa, the voice. Everybody was the voice of something. I decided, I wanted to create something different, and then stuck with Mister Activated, and then and then it kind of, I guess it works for for the time being. I feel like at some point I'm gonna outgrow the name and figure something else out. But for now, that's the name we rocking with.
Yeah. That's such a dope story, man. Dang. That's.
Everything got a story, my
I
guy.
mean, dude,
We just
listen.
now
I
just
feel like I feel like anyone I run into when I tell them or ask them like, "Where'd you get your nickname?" It's always a dope story. And then like, because
Mm.
like I honestly every time someone asks me like, "Where'd you get the name Mr. President?" It's so whack. It truly is whack. And like
Talk to me. I want to know, how'd you get the name Mr. President? Talk to me.
Okay, so back in high school, I had like a group of friends, and we were very known for going
Mm.
to like the back of the library. We used to play a cards game called President.
Yeah.
So
Oh, okay, okay.
right. So basically, we would play there all lunch. We were like the loudest bunch. Like we did not give a shit. We were just like getting
Mm.
super crazy if like someone was cheated or someone was like winning all the matches, and I was usually like the best player there. And one
Mm-hmm.
of my friends, shout out to Anthony, he one day I walked into school. He just walked up to me and say, "Hey, what's up, Mr. President?" And I was like confused. I was like,
Mm.
who you talking to? I'm like, talking to you, man. I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
but like, why
because
you?
you knocking them out the park with the game.
Yeah, right. I'm like, dude, like, why you calling me that? He's like, yo, cause like, you're pretty good at the card game itself, so I'm calling you Mr. President. Initial reaction, hated it. At first, I hated it. I'm like, bro, stop it. But obviously, he was bugging. He kept doing it like for the next week and the next week. And then one time, I was part of like a good cohort of black students that hosted this conference called Black Brilliance, and basically we invited over a bunch of secondary schools. We hosted workshops and we like facilitated on such important subject matter like toxic masculinity, police brutality. I was one of the facilitators.
Mm.
And then when the event was over, I went to talk to one of the guest speakers that we brought in. So I
Yeah.
was telling her about the whole Mr. President bit. I'm like, yeah, this is just so dumb. And she sat me and she's like, why do you find that annoying? And I'm like, just call me by my name. I mean, is that hard? And she's like, let me ask you this. Do you consider yourself a hardworking person? I said, yeah. Do you consider yourself someone who's persistent and wants to, succeed, but also wants to see the best in others? I'm like, yeah. So don't you think you should be represented by a name as such, as president, as a leader, as someone, who can be able to listen to others and, be a strong, representation of like growth, sustainability? And that's where I was like, oh snap. Like she broke it down to me like
Yeah,
that.
you're like, I'm taking this.
Yeah.
I'm taking this.
So from there, I just went with it, and I said it proudly. Anytime someone was calling Mr. President, I'm like, yeah, that's me. And it came to the point where, like, when people were addressing me, I'm like, no, 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 call me Mr. President. Like, call me that. That's the new name.
You gotta own it. You gotta own what it is. You should change the podcast name. You should have Mr. President in there somewhere. You know what I mean?
I mean,
I think that's
like,
your takeaway from this. You gotta figure a way to incorporate because, like I said, I realized something about how you market yourself and things like that. It's like, hey man, people really listen and like from just me, Mr. Activated. Like it's people will call me that first now. Like it's like, yo, Activated, yo, Mr. Activated. Like Activated is it's literally it's almost like this persona that I'm embodying and choosing to live through. And it's like even when I went back to Niger and I remember the first time after like things here started to pick up a bit and I went back for vacation because I go back there every December.
yeah,
And then I walk into the club and then they like, yo, just, go say something on the mic, you know what I'm saying? Get the people going, you know what I mean? So I was like, all right, cool. So I go in the booth and, I talk and, do my little spiel. Not like 5 minutes, not even. I come back and I'm walking to the booth and then I ran into somebody who I think has been following me on Instagram, but I've never met them in real life. But we've had a little chit chat here and there. And I just remember saying, oh, Mr. Activated, like, it's you finally. And I was just like, oh, like these moments for me are surreal. Obviously, I think that like, you become something that sometimes you look back and you're like, are people starting to treat me a little different? But it's like every part of that, like I embrace and I embody. Like it has now become who I am to a certain extent, and it's going to be part of my journey that's being said. When it's all said and done, Mr. Activated would be embedded.
right.
And me and Mr. Activated will be is one, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's how I decided that's how I'm gonna leave my impact in the culture, especially here in Toronto, for sure.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So you are an individual who has traveled a lot. Like I think we've kind of touched on it a couple times. Again, you being in France last week, so just and like again, you mentioned vlogging as well. So like I've seen a couple of your videos on YouTube. I'm just like, first off, I need to get out more. Like that's just straight out period. Like bro, I'm done. Listen, I am done traveling somewhere where it has to do with family and unfortunately has to do with a death of a family member. I want to go out and travel for me, just for me. But tell me, like, how do you find such joy in traveling, being able to see different people or maybe see people you've already connected with and just expand your brand overall?
Yeah. Honestly, traveling to me was kind of like I started to travel like late in my 20s, like mid 20s, because I didn't have no money. So I wasn't a traveler that was like, go travel and come back stressed or go back and be in debt. To me, I always looked at it like, when I'm able to travel, I want to do it in a way that it doesn't cause me any more stress. It actually relieve me of stress, meaning like I have the ability to take a trip and spend $3,000 and I come back like, oh shit, like I got to work overtime or whatever. I'm not a fan of working more. I'm a fan of working efficiently. Matter of fact, I'd rather work less and get paid the same amount. You know what I'm saying? Because your time is valuable. You don't get the time back. I mean, your job is saying your time is worth to us $30 an hour, and this is how much we're paying you. You got to realize, you got to look at it and go, is that something I'm okay with? So when I got the chance to really start to travel, I was like, I wanted to do it in a way that made sense. The allow me to really enjoy the side of traveling, not getting out and going on schedule. Because sometimes people travel and they got to do certain things on certain day. No, I'm like, I'm going traveling, and if I wake up today before noon, I would like to do one thing and then figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think that translated into like me, like once again, like I think that like many of us come from an environment that wasn't like, we don't come from money. We don't come from some of us come from very difficult environment. Like us growing up was tough. Like we had to share bedrooms with siblings and just our circumstances were a little different. Our parents as immigrant came to the country. They had to give up things. So, there was a lot of luxury that wasn't part of our life. And I think for me, being able to travel, I just want to inspire those that kind of live similar life to me. Like, yo, yeah, like I'm talking to you south of France, but like, and this is real. Like, we spent $300-400 on sneakers, right? If I was to tell you that like my plane ticket costs $500, now you might look at it and go, oh shit, like, you know what I mean, so many ways that you could finesse the system. Like, I collect a lot of points through my credit card company, so I'm able to like sometimes subsidize my traveling.
Yeah.
So it's not so much about like everybody could travel based on your budget. But if you fall in love with how people travel on Instagram, you're gonna get yourself in trouble, right? Because they're going into villas that are costing $3,000 a week. But guess what? Down the street, there's an Airbnb that's gonna cost you $300 for the week, and you're gonna be able to enjoy yourself just as much with less stress because you're not coming back with a credit card debt, right? And I think that I had a YouTube channel created that was meant to be for the podcast. But then when I started to make videos, I was like, oh, like instead of like starting over, let me just start putting it on my YouTube page and going on. And the first video on that on my YouTube that really took off, that even inspired me to continue vlogging, is when I went to Niger and I created a vlog. And I shot this with my iPhone 11 at the time, right? Vlog take off crazy. Like, I'm seeing numbers. I had 82 subscribers at the time. That vlog alone brought me like 1,000 subscribers. Like, because I was able to identify a pain point that we were going through. People of Niger never seen it. Like, if you go to Ghana, there's a million Ghana vlog. If you go to Nigeria, but in Niger, it wasn't a thing. So I was literally the first person to go there and to shoot something high quality enough. Because like I said, prior to that, there was a couple of vlogs, but they wasn't good. You know what I mean? Like, let's just call it what it is. And I studied those, by the way. You know what I mean? It goes back to what I'm saying. Like, I was like, oh, they did it this way? Damn, they was getting able to get 6,000 views. All right, cool. Let me, like, actually tell the story. And then that took off. I think that thing right now is at 60,000 views. Like I said, if you look at the time, based on numbers and things like that, there's no way that gets to the place that it gets. So what that does is, because I also travel a lot, I was like, oh, it'll be interesting if this becomes an extension of, you know, things that I talk about on my podcast, and now you could visually like see, like, went to Phoenix for a week, you know, come and see what that's like. But also really dedicated, because like I've been saying on the podcast, I care about the skill set. So I don't want to shoot a vlog that's just horrible.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to shoot something that's visually appealing and inspired. So I've had to learn how to shoot vlogs in the proper way. Because there is a way. Like, it's not, you know, like, and let's call it what it is. Black people, we shoot vlogs mostly we in the club, okay? We go to whatever country we go to. We're in the club because that's all the activities we like to do. But none of my vlogs show you any clubbing scene. Not that I don't go clubbing, but it's like, that's not what I want to show you.
Like,
I want to show you other
it.
things. Yeah, like going to Phoenix, I was able to rent a boat at 80 and drive on this lake. That to me was epic, right? So I'm just trying to give people an extension of what the podcast is, and through traveling and now having the ability and learning how to vlog, it's allowing me to once again develop a skill set that all transpired or came from the podcast. To now I get paid as a videographer to shoot videos. Like now, so now that became a stream of revenue that, and I'm gonna be honest with you, like how much I get paid to shoot videos, I should just do that full time, because them checks is coming, and it's like, wait, what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even now I'm talking to you about having the opportunity to go to France to go shoot a promo video. Like, you know, you hearing like, we're gonna fly you first class, we're gonna pay for your stay and things like that. And that's like, well, damn, like this is not bad. And all that came from what? Like just my love of wanted to travel and kind of like, hey guys, look what it is over here. And I think, and it turns to what it turned out to. And this is what happens when I feel, when you focus on developing a skill set and just doing something out of love, like the money gonna take care of itself. And I think now we do the opposite. We go to visually appealing places in the world just so we could have that popping Instagram picture, just so we could come back and go, oh, look. But if you ever travel with people like that, you know they're not having a great time. Because remember, whenever you're having a great time, you don't have time to be on your phone.
Right.
And that's a fact. Anytime somebody has time to be on their phone, they're not having a great time.
Yeah, that's so true.
I mean, but so So that's what it is for me.
Yeah, no, listen, man. Anytime I'm traveling, sometimes I'll travel somewhere and people won't even know because again, I'm not that type of person to like flash off
Mm.
like, "Hey, I just landed here, man. We're about to, go into the hotel and chill out." It's just like no, and then like next, like 3 months later, I'm like just talking to my
Mm.
friends and I mentioned like, "Oh yeah, I was in this place." They're like, "When?" It's just like a couple months back. You didn't say
Yeah.
nothing. Exactly. Why do I have to say it?
They didn't see on the gram. It's not real. It's not
Right,
real. But
exactly.
also you got to look at it like, and sorry not to cut you off, but so you spend a lot of time traveling and a lot of money and things like that. So I started to look at it like, is this something that we could look at it a little bit more serious and actually make some money out of it? We all know like YouTube is a platform that allows you to monetize your content in a real way. So, the camera that I use is $3,000. So why can't I see if I could shoot a vlog and maybe down the line make money out of it? And then it pays for itself. So now you're able to, and we go back to you having a regular job and somebody telling you your time is worth $18 an hour. Now you get to, I call it, you get to liberate yourself, because it's important that we feel liberated. Because if you feel tied to your job, you're going to be miserable at some point in your life.
Right.
And there's nothing you could do because this life is funding all of your money. Like, I'm able to do things today because I was able to tap into something else that allows me to gain a little bit of financial freedom so I could turn down things. So I could actually speak up at work in a real way. And we talk about changes at the beginning of the podcast. This is why I'm able to dictate changes, because I don't care about your money you're going to pay me. I'm good financially. So once that burden is lifted, I really get to really speak my mind. I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this. It doesn't make sense. Oh, we want you to host is $100. No, I don't need to host.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because here's the standard that we set. And the more of that you have, the more you're able to see changes in a real way. For many years at work, I was one of the only black person there. Now, I'm not saying that, it was intentional or anything like that. And I don't think it was. But this year, for the first time ever, we got 2 summer students. It's 2 women, and they're black. First time ever. I've been working in this place for 7 in my 8th year. I would like to think that like I had something to do with that, because in the past couple of years I've been on my fuck you, I'm gonna speak my mind shit, because you could fire me like it would like, and as much as I love what I do, right? I'd be fine. I took some time off work. They didn't pay me for 2 months.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it goes back to show you, I think it's important to tap into things and allow yourself to feel freedom financially, so you can actually start to create a real impact in the world.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Sure. And I love how again you told yourself like, listen, if I have to leave, then I'll leave because I'll be fine. And I feel like for any black individual, if you have that, mindset of like, you know what, if I'm able to harness the skills that I have, then like I know I can make it somewhere. Listen, there have been so much time that I don't even want to like put any of my jobs or my places on blast, any past or current ones. But there could have been times I could have left and I'd be like, listen, if you fire me or like you have to kick me off, listen, I'll find somewhere else in the next month. That's how confident I feel, man. So like,
Yeah.
I definitely see, the point you're coming from. But nah, traveling, you expand your brand. I think that's awesome. And I love how you've been able to just kind of take it and just make it in your own image as well. I think that's such a strong sentiment.
No, I mean, finding I just, thank you again for having me on your podcast and for allowing me to come and you just kick it with you for an hour. I think it's important that, whichever level you think you might be in life, it's always good to reconnect back. And I was looking forward to this for sure, because even in the outline and things that you sent me, I was impressed. Like, oh man, that boy's doing work. And the reason why I'm impressed is because it showed that you've taken a level of dedication to some aspect of your podcast. And if you consistently keep this on, like, we want to see you now be, maybe, I don't want to say like where I'm at, as if like that's the level to reach, but you could definitely surpass that and be greater. But at least we could be like, yo, we had something to do with where he's at. And then as a community, I say this all the time, we need to be careful who we pour into, because the people that win needs to be curated in a way that we know that they're going to be good for the ecosystem. And this is my motto for everything. Like, I'm willing to help anybody as long as I know, you know what? If Mr. President makes it, like, he's going to do good in this community, and that's you paying that forward. And I think that's a one thing I always leave people with, like, pay attention to who you pour into, because there are the seed that you're planting in our community. And as Black people, we know that we need people in position to make a difference in a real way. That's not going to be afraid to speak up. That's not going to be able to advocate for everybody else, because, you know, Jay-Z said it best, you know, if I'm the only one to make it, if I'm the only one that's free, we all enslaved. Like, something along those lines, like, what's it worth if I'm the only one that made it and everybody else is still struggling? You know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense, because the spaces you get to, guess what? It's all white people. So you're not even going to feel comfortable in that. But, yeah, man, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, this was dope. This was dope.
Yeah, man, for sure. I know, like, I probably would ask you where can they find you on social, but I feel like you mentioned it a couple times in the episode. But maybe just one more time for the.
I'm gonna plug it in one more time. So, my podcast is called Activated Podcast. So search that up, Activated Podcast. My personal page is Mr_Activated. My website is also live now. You can find me at www.officiallyactivated.com. And also, like, when you go to YouTube, go check out my vlogs, man. I think my vlogs are dope, and I think you will enjoy it. It's Activated Podcast on YouTube as well. And yeah, man, thank you guys, and feel free to hit me up. And, you know, Mr. President would tell you I'm accessible, but sometimes I miss messages, so don't take it the wrong way. I'm not, you know what I mean? Sometimes the messages, they go to the wrong places in the DM, and it'll be crazy. But once again, man, thanks for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. And also go check out this man. I believe is it Africa Day in Toronto? I think you're hosting.
Yeah, Africa Day in Toronto this Saturday. We're gonna do a little bit, but it's like, follow my Instagram. I think I have an event to host all the way to like end of July. Some of them I haven't announced yet, but if you want more info, if you live in the city of Toronto, you want to turn up in a real way, hit me up, Mr_Activated, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you go check out me at the Safe Room Official on Instagram. Go check out my website, www.saferoompodcast.com. I'm making some updates on it. I'm probably going to get in touch with Ibou again, because I'm about to ask you about something that's pertaining to my website. It's something bad or serious. It's something good.
Holla at me. I got you.
Yeah, make sure you guys check me out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Go listen to the official soundtrack of the podcast by yours truly, First Lady, by your boy, the President, John Williams. Listen to the track. Tell me what you think. Yeah, guys. So, thank you. We're about to sign off, and see you guys next time.
Peace.